All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Ashcraft. So like you said, my name is Benjamin Davis. I'm a sixth grade math teacher at Garrett Middle School. And if you know anything about Garrett County, it's a pretty small school district we have. My class sizes range from about like 20 to 25 students. And Desmos is the math curriculum that we have used this year. And in the past, we've taken it from something we've done once or twice, an activity, maybe a month, but now we're doing it something every day. And like I've said in the title of this is an engaging math resource. I think like several of our speakers today have talked about students value relationships, and then what I've found is that students value engaging activities, and Desmos is certainly something that can engage the students. So I will share my screen. I'm going to cross my fingers because my school district, we do not use Zoom at all. We are heavily in the Google Meet, so I'm hoping this works the way I'm imagining it will. So give me 1 minute, please. And are you all seeing my slide? Is that right?
Yes, it came up and it just went to full screen.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So like I said, what is Desmos? Desmos is an engaging computer-based math resource. A few years ago, our school district went one-to-one, which has allowed us to use Desmos more often than not. You know, now we don't have to schedule the Chromebook cart. We don't have to go to the technology room. Everyone has the computer with them every day. So this allows us to use it. And like I keep talking about, it's engaging. Students love Desmos. It is something that we are doing every single day in my classroom. And I never hear the groaning and the moaning about getting the computers back out and signing on to Desmos. Usually on the rare occasions that we're not using Desmos is when I hear those kind of complaints come out. But for the most part, kids absolutely enjoy it. And I think that's very important when you're building those relationships and you're demonstrating to kids that you can give them instruction that they will find enjoyable. And like I've said before, in the past, we started doing this like once a week, once a month, but now we have fully committed to it at our school, and it is something that has taken off very well. Desmos provides you with an endless supply of formative assessments, and that's my favorite thing about it. Outside of the engaging piece, Desmos presents itself, and I'm going to show you all a lesson from the student perspective here in the last half of this, but it presents itself sort of as a slideshow kind of. And every slide that I show on the board or the computer or the students have in front of them on their computer can turn into a formative assessment for me, which is something I highly value when I'm teaching math up there. And it has a ton of different formative assessment types. I mean, you can do multiple choice, true, false. You can do graphs. You can do card sorts, pictures, drag and drop activities. There's all kinds of ways that you can assess where students are. And that formative assessment piece really gives me the opportunity to pause what I'm doing, go back and reteach the few students that may need it, or if my class as a whole is ready to move on. But the formative assessment embedded in every slide is what I like the most about it. And I say that this is a math resource, and I should mention that Desmos can be used for other subjects. I can certainly see an application for social studies, even for art classrooms, any type of activity or instruction where you're needing a formative assessment, you can adapt Desmos to fit your needs. And then Desmos can be adapted to many different lessons and subjects. So like I said, it's not exclusive to math. It's geared towards math, but it's not the only subject you can find a use for it. I was introduced to Desmos through a high school teacher in our district. She's really involved with Desmos. She's a fellow of the Desmos Institute and goes across the world literally and presents all sorts of things. So I've been able to learn from her and kind of see where she pulls things from and how it can be used. And I think they've used it at our high school in different lessons or subjects, I'm sorry, like social studies, art, science even. So it is adaptable to whatever you need it to. The very first time I ever used it, my mentor at the middle school took this paper activity that I designed that was, in my opinion, pretty engaging, but it wasn't the greatest thing in the world. And she turned it into this Desmos activity for me that had these slides with the formative assessments that I could see quickly. And every student, it really opened my eyes to what Desmos was capable of. So like I said, I want to show you all the student perspective of it. So if you wouldn't care to, please, if you're able to, Open up maybe a split screen where you have half of the Zoom and then the other half have this new website up, and go to student.desmos.com. It should ask you for a code, and if you can type that 6-digit code in, that would be very helpful, please. And I'm going to try to show you my end of it. So I'll take about 2 or 3 minutes, let everyone get signed in if you're able to. I know we don't have a ton of people in here, but it'll still be helpful if I can get at least 3 or 4 of us signed into this.
Ben, what was that code? Oh, is it up there at the top? WAC.
It is, and I actually have it in the chat. If I can go back to find the chat, I can copy and paste it. Almost. I think if you just click on that link that I just posted in the chat, that should take you right in there.
Yeah, it looks like it did. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, we got one in there. Thank you, Nick and Aaron. Thank you. So I believe you all, if you have the screen split up, you're still able to see my end of it. Is that correct, Ms. Ashcraft?
Sorry. Yes, I can see you on the screen, and then I can see the student version on my other screen.
Okay, perfect. So what I've showed to you right now is the student perspective. There are 2 different ways to go about this. One is what I've done right now, just post a single session code, which is what I've done in the past whenever I'm teaching 2 or 3 classes. My co-teacher, whenever one of us is out, will lead the other teacher's sections, and we'll post a single session code. If you guys, or if anyone in your school is using Google Classroom, what I like to do is post the link in Classroom, and they just click on that link, and it takes them right in. So when they get signed in, it moves a little bit quicker than this. And I think what shows up on your screen is that very first slide that says, "Where were you born?" Drag the point to the place where you were born, and then click that blue Share with Class button. So as you all come in, please work on that first slide, and I'm going to keep looking at the summary, see if we get anyone else popping in there. The Desmos lessons that are provided for us as a Garrett School or Garrett Middle School in our curriculum are completely planned for you. You have from bell to bell instruction. We have a bell ringer, we have the first activity, we have the formative assessments embedded, and then we have an exit or a check for understanding at the end too. What I'm showing you all today is more of a mishmash of all of the different types of activities that we can use. So this is not the 100% authentic experience, but it's pretty close. So as you get signed in, I'm going to do one thing here. I'm going to pause your activity, which as a teacher is something I do quite a bit. So when students are first getting signed in, they have the ability to move all over the slides. They can go through 1 through 7 or 1 through 8 I have. And if they were able to, they could finish this up in like 5 or 10 minutes. But typically I don't want them to do that. So I can pause as needed, and then your screen should show up and it says activity is paused. And I like to do this a lot of times to stop the lesson right there, to explain something, to make sure everyone's on the same page. And then what I'll do sometimes is I'll go back and I'll pace. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to restrict everyone to screen 1. So on my end, I can see that I have 2 students on screen 1 and then 2 students on screen 2. When I click this restrict to screen 1 button, it's going to slide everyone back to that first screen. And it takes a minute. You know, computers aren't perfect. But now everyone's on the slide where I want them to start. I'm going to go back to my summary sheet, and I can see, oh, my lights are going off. I can go back to my summary sheet, and I can see who has completed the activity so far. I see Nick, Aaron, Joseph, and Jim have all done it. And then I'll say, okay, well, we can either take a look at it. I can see everyone's answers individually. I can look at an overlay of the map. So it looks like the 4 of us that are in here today are all from the same place. We're all from Kentucky. But it gives me an opportunity to look at this picture, and if I was showing a grid, I could see where our answers are lying. So a lot of times you'll see this activity with place a point in quadrant 1 in a coordinate plane. And it gives me a really fast chance to see who is in quadrant 1. Are most of us, are some of us, are none of us where I need to be? Can pause the activity, go back to where we need to, and then we can keep on moving. One other thing I should have mentioned at the beginning, when students get signed in to the activity, I have an ability to anonymize their names. And so if you are looking at the student version on your side, up in the very top left, you should have a name of a famous mathematician. And I don't generate these names for you. Desmos has done the research and found them all out. And everyone now has a name. So whenever I'm presenting my screen up on the board, I can show people's or students' work, and that kind of takes away that element of fear that they're going to be wrong in front of the whole class, because now it doesn't say Nick's answers on the board. It says Erica Camacho. And I don't know, maybe you know who Erica Camacho is, but I don't. So I can show I can click on their slide, show their answer on the screen, use it to talk about, and then use it as a launching point for the next slide that we're going to do. Another thing is, if I really do want to know whose answer that is, as the teacher, I can come up over to Erica Camacho, kind of hover over it for just a second, and it tells me the person's name. So if I needed to know who that was in a hurry, I would know that's Nick. And I see in the comment that I think Nick, thank you, said you were under the impression that Desmos was only a math and science thing, and I think a lot of people are too. I think when they hear Desmos, they know the application for math, but it certainly has applications to different subjects, and I would say many different grade levels too. I think the youngest I've heard people using Desmos is in the 3rd grade range, but I know that it's used also all the way up to senior level math. It's very adaptable. So I'm going to unpause this now. So you should be able to go back. Now, if you try to slide over from slide 1 to slide 2, you are not able to, because I have you paste. Now, if I were in class, what I would like to do is say, okay, class, let's start on slide 1. When you get that one finished, I'll hit this plus button and say you can access slide number 2. So whenever you have slide 1, you can hit that right arrow at the top, slide over to number 2, and then share, work on that slide. To agree or disagree with a statement, and you can drag and drop that point. How much do you agree? How much do you disagree? And if you don't care, type a sentence or two that it says more about your choice. And I've tried for our purposes today to highlight some of the non-math parts. So I'm making this as unmath related as I possibly can. So I'll give everyone 30 seconds, 45 seconds like I would in class to finish this slide. And then we'll go over one of the answers. I'll show you another feature it can do here in just a second. And if anyone is getting in here late, I'm going to post this link again in the chat. So if you want to follow along with us and see the student perspective, it is there. So click on that link and sign in if you like, or just stay back and watch what we're doing from our end. While people are working, I can look to see who is on what slide. So this blue square that's showing up tells me that 3 people are on the slide number 2, and I still have 1 person on slide number 1. If I wanted to, I could hover over their name, see who that is. If I needed to go and say to the student, hey, will you come on to the next slide? That's possible. I could even edit the pacing I have for them. So if everyone should be on slide 2, but they're not, I can restrict them to it. Give everyone a few seconds to finish this up. I'll pull up the teacher end. And I like to hit the overlay button when I have these types of questions on there, because it shows me the class as a whole. Typically, I like to see answers that are really centered around 1 or 2 parts. It tells me kind of where the misconceptions may be, or where if we're all trending towards the right answer. And this question I've asked, agree or disagree if you're a math person, it looks like 1 strongly agrees and maybe 2 are in the neutral. The statement that you all are typing, I have 1 person typing in at the moment, which shows up maybe not in real time, but it shows maybe like a 30-second delay. I like to pick on one answer, show it to the class where they'd say, I've always been fairly good at math, but only just now feel like I have an understanding. Use that to talk about. One of my favorite activities to do as a teacher is my favorite no, where I like to find an incorrect answer, point it out and talk about with the class why answer is not correct. And like I mentioned before, having the anonymized names really opens students up to take those chances and be vulnerable with what they're doing. So it looks like everyone's done with slide 2. I'll open up slide number 3, slide number 4. So as the students finish slide 2 and we've talked about it, I say go on to 3 and 4. At this time, I hover around the room, circulate, talk to the students individually, see what's going on. I'll pull up my summary sheet and I can see where students are. See 1 or 2 have slid over to number 3. Looks like some people are still working. As soon as that dot appears in the rectangle, that tells me that they have answered the question. Some of the slides that we have in Desmos have a correct and incorrect answer, and I could go back and select one. And instead of a dot appearing, there would be a check mark or an X. Students, when they see the summary board, the board of the screen in my room is up close enough to where they can see their name. So they'll find their anonymized name on the left, follow over to the right, and see if they have the square or the check mark, or I'm sorry, the check mark or the X. Lets them know if they got it, they need to go back, or if they're fine to move on. Like I said, these slides today, not terribly math related, which is what I was going for. Just want to show the different types of assessments. So number 3 was a multiple choice question. What's your favorite day of the week? Number 4 says circle all those sports you have played. I'll stay on the summary to make sure that everyone's where they need to be. And as soon as I've given enough time for everyone to finish it, I'll pause the activity, go back and talk with it as a class. So I will assume that everyone's probably had enough time to do this today. I'll pause it. So now no one else is able to type in anything. No answers can be changed. I'll go over here to slide 3. And what it shows me on these multiple choice questions is the bar graph. So I can see the 2 favorites, 2 students like Saturday, 1 is Sunday, 1 is Friday. No one picked other. Use that as a discussion point. I'll go on to slide 4. And one thing I haven't showed yet is this snapshot feature. So I'm going to try to find 2 people who are different. Find Mariel Vasquez, and I can click on this camera button at the top right of her image. Take a snapshot. I'll find someone else. We'll go Erica Camacho again. Snapshot that. And at the very top of my screen where I have snapshots, summary, teacher, and student, I'll click on the snapshots. And I will drag these 2 images side by side. And some questions lend themselves better than others to this, but I will pull these up, and I can use this to ask the class question. What do we notice that's similar about this? What do we know that's different? How is one correct? Is one incorrect? Use these types of images in a side-by-side fashion to use that to discuss with the class. And like I said a few times before today, Desmos can be engaging, and it can be very good for enriching a discussion. Like I've said a few times before too, that I cannot stress enough the value of that anonymous feature, giving everyone a chance to take chances in their learning, try something new without the fear of everyone knowing in the classroom who is correct and who is incorrect. It really opens students up to trying new things, which is something that I enjoy the most. We'll keep going. I think we've hit most of them. I want to show 2 more slides, so I'll restrict you to slide 5 and 6 again, maybe. When I unpause the activity, it opens up to a card sort, which is, in this example, it's match the cards, find the Shakespeare plays, and I think the other one is to find football teams. And what you do is you simply just drag one card to the next, and you make a list. While students are working on this, I do have the summary sheet pulled up, and when the answers are correct, you should have a check mark appear on your screen. I can also pull up a teacher image. When I click that show correctness button, the blue squares or the blue cards that you see on your end show what's correct. The gray ones mean that you have not touched them, and the orange ones means that something in there is not right. Give the students a minute or two to work on this, and then say slide on over to the next one. The card sorts, in my opinion, depending on how many you have, can be a little daunting at times. They're not my favorite formative assessment to use, at least not in math, but they are valuable whenever we're talking about vocabulary and definitions. One of the things that I see frustrates the students the most with the card sorts is that it's hard to see what they have correct and what they have incorrect and where to go back and change. So I just pulled this one from today. I didn't make this for myself, but in the past when I've used them in class, I try to limit the card sorts to like 3 to 6 cards at most. Otherwise, it gets a little unruly. And when you get done with slide 5, slide over to number 6. And this is one of the slides where it's not so much the formative assessment as much as we use it for instruction. I think I spent a lot of the time today highlighting how the formative assessment piece works, which is fantastic, but we've been using this more as instruction this year. And one of the neat things I think about Desmos is that there is the ability to try a bunch of different options. So in this example was something we pulled from ratios today. You pick whatever color you like. You can come down here to the bottom, drag, and mix a color of paint. If you like purple, you can make purple. You could try another one. You could reset it, do a light shade of teal. And then what happens is on the next slide, when I slide everyone over, because I think everyone's had a chance to do that. When I slide it over, the choice that you made in slide number 6 follows you to number 7. And for some, I don't know why the students love that so much, but they do. It kind of gives them the ability to take ownership of their learning, and they find it extra it's exciting and interesting. For one example, we did a pizza one where the students got to design their own pizza, and the pizza that they made followed them to every slide, and it would just seem to really get them going a little bit more than I thought it would. So on slide number 7, this would be an example of our ratio lesson where we take the color that you made in slide 6 and you're asked to make a darker one. And you can try to make a darker one. I'll show one. And if the students are able to do it successfully, I believe a green check mark should pop up on their screen telling them that you were able to do this, you were correct. Or if they didn't get it right, they accidentally made a lighter one, it'll tell them to go back and try it again. This is good for the teacher because this does not require me to go around to every single student and show where they went right or where they were wrong. It gives that personalized feedback pretty fast, so I don't have to go around and talk to 25 different students. They're able to see on their own screen if they got it correct or if they need to try it again. One more slide to work with, just an example of what we use as an exit slip. How do you feel about Desmos? We'll usually ask this question about where it is related to the learning. We'll ask an exit slip, and then we'll also just pop one in there about how do you feel? Are you confident? Did it make sense? Do you need more? Sometimes there's the faces where it gives them the chance to make a range from sad, frowning face to the happy face to give the teacher the ability to see where our students are with the lesson, in addition to the exit, because sometimes it's helpful to know how confident students are rather than just rely on the data from the exit slip. When students get done with the exit slip, I'll stop pacing. I will anonymize their name. And this gives the students, if they were absent, the ability to go back in, access the lesson, complete all the slides that they need to, and I can go back and check what they've done in another time. So that is Desmos in a really fast, not nearly long enough time to go over. Does anyone have any questions for me about Desmos? Anything about the resources, how you can adapt it, anything? I'm fair game. I know I've ended maybe a few minutes early, but if anyone has a question, please fire away.
No, I was just thinking then about how this could be used for professional development, even with teachers. And, there's often situations where we're in PD or having to reflect on some of our PLCs and just how we could use this for educators and all kinds of learning opportunities too, to keep some of that anonymity. Is this all free?
Yes, the website to go to make your own is TeacherDESMOScom, and that opens up just a blank canvas for you to design activities. You're able to go and copy and paste, and like I said, I I borrowed or used a lot of the slides from other activities today. But in the past, I have completely made my own from scratch. I've completely taken others. Sometimes I've gone in there and tweaked some of the activities that are already there. So it is completely free to use. Our school is using a curriculum this year that has the lesson plans and everything mapped out. I'm sure that is not free. I don't know the cost or what all was involved to get that. But the activities themselves, if you're willing to create your own, that's free, and it can be used for anyone, any different activity. Thank you, Dr. Wallace. I appreciate that. There were a lot of really high caliber speakers here today. So after I saw about 3 sessions, I started to get a little nervous coming into this. I was big shoes to fill. I appreciate you all being in here and watching that. And lastly, if you think of a question after the fact, or if you want to send me an email asking about something else, there's my contact information. Feel free to email me or text me at that phone number or call me, and I would be happy to help. Desmos is something I have gotten involved a lot in, and find a lot of the teachers at my school coming to ask me questions. So I don't mind at all to talk it up and to answer any questions you may have at another day. So if anyone doesn't have any other questions, thank you all for listening and participating, and I really enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. This was a great presentation. I enjoyed being part of the student demonstration. And again, my mind's just kind of turning on how we could use this for professional learning opportunities, how we could use it within our own team discussions. So thank you for sharing such a great tool. Lots of great and positive acknowledgements in the chat. So we have, at this point, we are about 2 minutes early. So you got a couple extra minutes back for your day if I don't need them up talking. And your round 5 starts at 11:50. Have a great rest of your EdCamp.
Thank you.